Okay, so here we are again with another G.I. Joe Classified Series unboxing, and this is Storm Shadow from the Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins movie. Now, I mentioned this when I did the review of the Baroness. I wasn't too crazy about the movie. I didn't think that it just wasn't very good. Yeah. But one thing I did really like about it was Storm Shadow. I thought they did a good job with the character of Storm Shadow, and I thought this was a pretty nice looking figure. So I'm going to be happy to add it to my collection. But let's see how I like this figure once I take it out of the package. So I already slit the tape at the top while I was waiting for my camera to load up. I got bored, so that's why that's already done. So we skip ahead a little bit. If we take the figure out of the package, we take the little plastic tray out, we can see the Arashikage symbol behind there. This is one of the hexagons from the I Ching. I don't know how you pronounce that. I believe, but it's supposed to represent fire over water, and it's the symbol of Storm Shadow's Ninja Clan. It's got a nice piece of artwork there depicting Storm Shadow, another piece over here. And then on the back, there's a picture of Snake Eyes from the movie, which was the main reason I didn't like the movie, because I felt like they messed up the character of Snake Eyes. Before anybody says anything, it didn't have anything to do with the fact that they cast an Asian actor. I didn't care about that. That had nothing to do with my dislike of the character. It was how the character was written and how basically he was the villain of the movie, and Storm Shadow was entirely justified in hating him. But Storm Shadow is my favorite character anyway, so the fact that they did a good job with Storm Shadow, uh, that was a little bit of salve on the wound, but I still didn't really like the movie very much. But the figure looks pretty cool, so let's have a look at the figure. So here we got the little teeny tiny backpack with a couple of little, I don't even know if I'd call them sheaths, they're so small, but obviously these are to hold his swords, which he has two swords. And neither one of these things is packed in or taped into the package. The backpack wasn't taped into the package. It all seems fairly easy to come out. That's a fairly nice looking katana with a white handle, which I feel like is appropriate for Storm Shadow. And these are both identical, it looks like. Traditionally, a Storm Shadow figure will come with a long sword and a short sword. I'm sorry, I don't know the technical names for those. I forget. So he's got an alternate unmasked head, which I think is a very good likeness of the actor from the movie. And you notice he has a little scar on the side of his eye, which I think is pretty cool because it reminds me of the original G.I. Joe figure, the one from the 1960s, where he had a scar on his cheek. So Stormy gets a scar on his cheek too, because technically he's not a member of the G.I. Joe team yet, but he does become one eventually. At least in the vintage toy line he did. So, no rubber bands holding this thing in, no tape, no nothing. I was able to take him out of the package very easily. And one of the things that really impressed me about this figure, before I even opened him up, and I was first looking at him, is this head sculpt, which I think is just great. It's just got such an expression to it. There's like a real intensity to this head sculpt, and I thought it was just a perfect Storm Shadow head sculpt. I was really happy with how the head sculpt turned out. So the unmasked head is cool. It's always nice to have unmasked heads for your characters, but the masked one is the one that really impresses me. So I'm gonna see how this backpack fits into his back, and you can see there's a hole in his back for that to fit into. Generally, I feel like the backpacks on these G.I. Joe classified figures, I feel like the backpack hole is too small. I talked about this in my Beachhead review, and it doesn't seem to hold the backpacks on very well because the backpacks are fairly heavy, But this one being fairly light, I'm hoping that'll work out a bit better. And the peg is really tight there. And you can see that's in there good and solid. And we can put his swords into his backpack. And that way you can store the swords when he's not using them. So let's go ahead and we're going to take off the masked head. And we'll put the unmasked head on there to see what that looks like. And it's fairly tight to get on there. There, I think I got it on there now. So, that's what he looks like with the unmasked head on there. I might not have it on there all the way. It seems like it might be a little giraffe-y. I think there we go. That's better. So, ideally, his neck should probably be flesh-colored when he's got the mask off. But considering how, like, you know, the swapping head works, either they'd have to make a separate neck, which that would be a whole nother piece, or they would have to paint in the neck flesh-colored, and then when he's wearing the mask, you know, you'd have the same problem. I think I'd rather have, you know, the mask and just pretend like he's got, like, a turtleneck shirt on or something like that. So, you can see this isn't, like, the traditional Storm Shadow costume like we think of, like the original figure. It's definitely a more modern take on the ninja. And I think that has its roots in some of the comics. Like, specifically, there was if you haven't read it, it's really awesome. There was a solo Storm Shadow series from Devil's Due that was made, like, I don't know, maybe around, like, 2005 or so. Sometime in the middle of the first decade of the 21st century. Whenever it was that Devil's Due was making G.I. Joe comics before IDW. I think it was right before IDW took over. But Larry Hama wrote a Storm Shadow solo series, and it was really cool. And one of the things that they mentioned was in that, like, Storm Shadow had a new costume that was designed just for that series. And it was, you know, people kept referring to it as a designer ninja outfit, and I think that influenced Storm Shadow's outfits in the movies a lot. Man, he's really blown out on my camera. Like, he looks really white, and honestly, the figure in person is not as bright a white as he looks on the camera, which is, I think, one of the drawbacks of this figure. I would have probably rather he had, like, a more shining, gleaming white costume, and this is kind of more like an off-white. It almost looks like an old action figure that's kind of yellowed a little bit, but but no, it's brand new. That's what he's supposed to look like, and but I like the outfit pretty well. It's got, like, these nice loose ninja pants, but unfortunately, there is a problem with this where you can see, like, they have a thigh cut here, and if you go to try to move his thighs at all, it makes it so it doesn't necessarily match up with the pattern of the wrinkles on his pants. So that's a problem. I wish they had found a better way to articulate that and not mess up the wrinkles on his pants. Because I do actually think it's pretty cool that they got those wrinkles in there. It's nicely sculpted, but I think probably what would have worked best is if they had done, like, an actual ball joint at the top, like old Marvel Legends figures. But instead, they just decided to do, like, a thigh swivel, like modern Marvel Legends figures. And on most figures, that would look better, but I kind of feel like on him, it looks worse. He's got these interesting shin guards that are reminiscent of a lot of more modern versions of Storm Shadow action figures we've seen in the past. So that's pretty cool. I like that better than the outfit Byung-Hun Lee had, where he had just, like, regular pants legs. Having the shin guards makes him feel a little more ninja-like. So, let's go ahead and pose him with the swords in his hands, see what it looks like that way. I haven't tried to move these elbow joints. They're a little tight, but I'm sure they'll loosen up with time. So let's go ahead, and his hand grips the katana very well. You can see that he has a trigger finger, which is good. So if you want to give him a gun he doesn't come with a gun, but if you want to give him a gun for some reason, he can hold that. I'm betting also that, like, if you were to borrow the bow and arrow from the so-called Arctic Storm Shadow figure, the Ninja Force one, if you're lucky enough to have that, like I am, uh, he could probably get a pretty good bow and arrow pose, and probably you could fit the arrow in between the two fingers here. I think that would work pretty well. So yeah, he holds these swords very nicely, very snugly. Not so snug that I'd be worried about getting them out again, but certainly snugly enough that you could probably have like swing him around and do all this action stuff and not have to worry about the swords falling out of his hand. So that's good. Uh, like I said, Hasbro had already made what was an Amazon exclusive, actually. Oh, he's got butterfly joints at the shoulders. That's good. So let's see if we can get him into a two-handed position with one of these swords. I think that would be cool. So anyway, as I was saying, they'd already done the Storm Shadow figure for Amazon that was an exclusive that was based on the Ninja Force version of Storm Shadow, and that one was really cool. But unfortunately now that one's really expensive also. So yeah, there we go. There he is. Nice two-handed sword pose. Very cool. This is a great figure. Uh, but yeah, they made that figure, and it was a pretty great figure. And I'm lucky enough that I was able to get it for retail price when it first came out. And I'm a big fan of the Ninja Force look for Storm Shadow. I think that's a good design. I know a lot of people were complaining that they didn't do, the classic version of Storm Shadow right off the bat, but you don't want to do that as an Amazon exclusive anyway. But yeah, like Storm Shadow, my personal favorite G.I. Joe character, certainly one of the greatest of all the G.I. Joe characters. The only figure that they had of him in the classified line up to this point is they had that exclusive Amazon figure of the third version from the vintage line. And that meant Storm Shadow was a very difficult character to get. I believe that figure is selling on Amazon right now for maybe this is a little smudgy. I don't know. Maybe get a napkin. Try to get that. And it looks to me like Storm Shadow's got lens flare coming off him or something. There, I think that's a little better. So hopefully he doesn't look as blown out now, and you can get a better look at him. But yeah, so this gives, I think, collectors and fans a chance to get a classified Storm Shadow figure to go with their line, so they can at least represent the character. It's not the classic version of Storm Shadow either, obviously, but I think it's still fairly cool, and certainly a recognizable version of Storm. You see that, and that's supposed to be Storm Shadow. And, if you've got some customizing skill, humbly, I have some customizing skill. If you were to get one of these, I think you could very easily make him into a more vintage style Storm Shadow. Maybe if you took this skirt piece off and get yourself maybe sand off the straps on here. Get yourself a Cobra emblem from Bad Mother Tattoos on eBay, so you can put that on the shoulder. If you could get the Hand Ninja from the Marvel Legends line, that has bandolier and other accessories that are more in line with what the vintage Storm Shadow figure had, you can make yourself a pretty decent vintage style Storm Shadow out of this figure using it as a base, I think. So, or he's perfectly fine like this. I think that despite what you might think of the movie, and I know that it is a source of controversy, and that a lot of people liked it, but a lot of people, such as myself, found it lacking and thinking it could have been better. But one thing, like I said, I thought they did a great job with was the character of Storm Shadow, and not just the writing and the acting, but I like this design for the character. So, so yeah, I'm definitely going to give this a recommend, especially if you missed out on that Amazon exclusive Arctic Storm Shadow figure. This is your first good chance to actually get the character. And these movie figures have been fairly plentiful. I see them at Walmart all the time. And I don't think that as many Storm Shadows are packed in the case as Snake Eyes. I think Snake Eyes is the one that's most heavily packed, and then Storm Shadow, and then lastly the Baroness. So if you're intending on collecting these and you see the Baroness, definitely snatch her up because she's not going to be the easiest one to find. She's probably going to be the hardest one to find. Stormy would probably be the second most difficult or most easy, depending on how you look at it. I suspect how it is that each case has 3 Snake Eyes, 2 Storm Shadows, and 1 Baroness. That's what I suspect the pack out is. I'm not sure. You can probably find that information online if you're interested. But I definitely think Storm Shadow is the gem of the wave. He's a great figure. Like, Baroness I thought was okay, but I had to switch out her hair to get her to really look like the Baroness. I wound up, I had a bunch of Black Widow comic vintage pack figures that I bought when they were clearanced out at GameStop. So I wound up taking some of the Black Widow hair and putting on this Baroness figure and painting it black. And then I thought she looked pretty cool. I don't know if I'm going to get the Snake Eyes figure. I might not. But I already have the classified Snake Eyes figure, which I think is pretty great. So I kind of feel like, as far as like 6-inch versions of Snake Eyes go, that itch has been scratched. I might get the 2-pack that has Timber in it, but that's like a 1982 style Snake Eyes, and that was the first Snake Eyes figure I ever had. So that definitely hits a nostalgia button for me. But yeah, like look at the face, look at the head sculpt, like the intensity of the expression there, like even this is a great Storm Shadow head sculpt. This is one of the best head sculpts of Storm Shadow I've ever seen. And I don't just mean a great head sculpt of how he looked in the movie. Like this, like they could just straight up reuse this on a completely 100% vintage style Storm Shadow figure, and it would not look out of place. It looks perfect. So yeah, this is a definite recommend. Pick him up if you're collecting classified. Even if you already have the Arctic one, he's worth having. So that's pretty much it that I have to say for this episode. I'm definitely going to buy more of the movie figures because there are definitely some more that I want, like Scarlet I definitely want because she looks like a good figure. So but that's pretty much it for this episode. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe and do all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this figure. Do you think that this is a good substitute for a classic style Storm Shadow in your classified line? At least tide you over until they do something that's more close to the vintage style. Were you able to get that Arctic Ninja Force Storm Shadow? What do you think of that? I think that's a pretty sweet figure. But anyway, yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments below, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.